The rule of thumb when it comes to ordering springtime flowers is that you should order them when they are blooming out in your garden. But I always make my life harder than it needs to be. Year after year, I like to push the boundaries on just how late I can get away with buying and planting my spring flowers and still have them bloom. All of your springtime, your bulbs, your corms, your rhizomes, you can get any variety and color pretty much that you want if you buy them early in the year. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. When you just stare at these beautiful flowers that are sold out everywhere that you cannot grow. And every year I do this to myself and I tell myself, next year I'm gonna order them on time, and I'm gonna let you guess about how that works out for me. So earlier this year, I did make a video explaining that tulips were not going to be a flower that I would be growing to sell. I had a lot of anxiety about that decision, if I'm being honest. I don't know if it was just the fear of missing out on an opportunity, on growing large quantities of like really beautiful flowers that I love. I'm not sure exactly where most of my anxiety came from, but I will tell you that it was a great decision. The first reason being that selling flowers for me, this is something that is still pretty new. It's a small operation. It's more of a passion project than like a business. I would like to make it into something more, but I am still in the early stages and I'm learning. And I also am not set up really for it to be a realistic like full-time business, right? I work a full-time job. It's very difficult to put the amount of time and effort and resources and everything into having a full-blown flower business. So if you're thinking, right, there's a lot of you out there who already know this information, but for anyone who is wanting to get into having like a cut flower business and you want to grow tulips, I personally think that it is extremely helpful to have some kind of a refrigerating system, a way to keep them cool. Because instead of cutting tulips, what we do is we pull the entire bulb from the ground. That way you have a very long stem, and also they have this like source of nutrients. So you can pull them when they're almost ready to bloom. Put them in cold storage, dry storage. There's a couple different methods that you could use. And then that bulb keeps them kind of like in this state of dormancy. So you can harvest them when they're ready to be harvested, and then you can store them and then kind of like use them and sell them over a span of time. Where for me, because I don't have any kind of a storage system like that, it was kind of this like race against Mother Nature, where the rain comes and like batters them, or the heat comes and blows them wide open. It was just like such a hectic, like stressful time to, you know, get them prepared and ready and then like sell them all at once. And even though we buy varieties that are like early bloomers and then some that bloom later in the year, it's still pretty difficult for me, at least, to get them all sold when they were ready to be harvested. Yeah, so that was a really long rambly story, but we are not growing tulips to sell them this year. I support you and I am cheering you on if you are. If you are someone who regularly grows and sells tulips and you have advice for people, you have advice for me, I'm all ears. I would love to hear any ideas that people have, because like I said, I'm still kind of figuring it out and it's a process. And then just to like give you a little bit of an insight of our garden situation, because I know there are a lot of you who are new to my channel and most of my content is about my like cut flower garden, and I'm planning on making a whole video about my garden setup because it's not your typical like gardening situation. I myself live in an apartment with a beautiful little garden balcony, and more houseplants than I really know what to do with at this point. But for my garden, where I grow all of my flowers, I have co-opted a portion of my parents' property. I cannot afford property on my own, and I cannot tell you how much more convenient it would be if I could just walk out my door into my garden, but that's not realistic for me at this time. So I kind of though straddle like both kinds of gardening. I have my big cut flower garden, and then I have like my small balcony garden where I do flowers and veg and herbs and all kinds of stuff. So it definitely keeps things interesting. It keeps me on my toes and like constantly thinking about what I can do in both areas. So today I'm just focusing on the balcony. I'm going to be planting some tulip bulbs that I found recently at one of my local nurseries. My boyfriend just moved in, and we have like little pockets of like chaos throughout the apartment, and the balcony is one of those spaces that is just kind of a mess. And I just want to be able to look out and have it be like a nice little space out there, even though it's freezing. So I'm planting my tulips today, but I have planted them as late as January in the past. I find that as long as they get about 6 to 8 weeks of solid cold exposure, they bloom just fine for me here in zone 8B. I'm planting them about 4 inches deep. This pot is a little on the shallower side, and I like my bulbs close together but not touching. But if you're planting them in the ground and leaving them there to multiply, you might want to give them a little bit more space. That way they have room for all their new growth. Once I have them planted, I'm going to give them a good drink of water, but they won't really need to be watered much after that. I'll probably check on them maybe once a week since they're under cover and not really exposed to any rain. And there we go. Bulbs are planted. I've got some fresh color. We are ready for the holidays. Just, pay no attention to this corner over here. And I just want to take a minute because I've had so many new subscribers to my channel, and I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you're here and all of your really beautiful, nice comments. I have been so happy to hear from so many of you, and I just wanted to say that I'm just really thankful and happy that you guys are here. So thank you so much again for hanging out, and I will see you guys in the next one.